Welcome to day number 2 of speakers, Weapons of Mass Creation, number 5. How are you all feeling? All right. Better than me, sounds like. It was kind of a late one, so I apologize for the croakiness of my voice. Thank you all so much for coming out early again. We had like an amazing day yesterday. Some awesome speakers, some like really interesting and challenging and important discussions. So thank you all for being part of that. We've got more of the same again today. We're finishing up a little bit earlier than what we did last night, so the timeline's a little bit constricted. So I'd remind everybody, like during the breaks, we've got the little cafe in the back if anybody needs to grab a snack or coffee or anything like that and get back in for the next session. But the only thing that I want to do today is like do one more thank you for all of our volunteers. We have like more volunteers here today and different ones from yesterday, so thank you. You know, this whole thing really just runs on the generosity and spirit of everybody who volunteers themselves to get involved, so thank you to them. So I'll shut up. I just hope everybody has an awesome day. We're around. Like, we'd really love like your feedback on like how we're doing, what we could do better, the stuff that you liked, the stuff that you'd like to see that you didn't see for like future fests. So, you know, please don't be shy in letting us know what you think. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Margot to introduce our first speaker.
Good morning, everyone. So first up is Cleveland's Kumar Arora. He runs a production company called Black Rose Entertainment, a streetwear brand called iLTHY, and a designer eyewear called Rogue. He's been crisscrossing design, industry, and business while maintaining his Cleveland roots. He was born to immigrant parents with very little, and his path definitely reflects the sort of traditional American dream. He's going to talk today about what it's like to run multiple businesses. You can talk to him about Justin Timberlake, LeBron James, and drawing with his mom, who is an artist, and she's actually here today. So give it up for Kumar. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. I know it's Sunday, you guys are here early, some of you guys might be hungover. Also want to thank everybody at WMC, Margot, Stuart, Jeff, Heather, everybody here. Round of applause for everybody, you guys, and the entire everybody here. So as Margot told you, I'm a serial entrepreneur here in Cleveland. My name's Kumar. I'm going to kind of throw a lot of different things, so bear with me because I'm going to go all the way from nano-science all the way to fashion. So who here wants to learn about science? Well, I'm not going to talk too much about it. Don't want to bore you guys that much, but this is actually one of my company's products. It's kind of the foundation of the idea. I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but it got me thinking, like, what makes my life so interesting? What is it that I can talk to about designers? You know, a scientist or a fashion designer isn't exactly, you know, a traditional norm, you could say. And it got me thinking, how did all of you end up on the same path that you're on right now? So we're often asked, what's your plan after college? What's your career plan that you plan to take? What do you want to be when you grow up? But how many of us actually had the answer to that question? It's what we decide in our early years to define who we are for the rest of our life. It's what we tell people when we meet for the first time and what we put on our business cards. For me, I was never interested in doing just one thing. Chances are I'm not the only one. So I want to take a closer look at that question and see how it applies to me today, and maybe yourselves thus far. So I had some fun. I was looking on BuzzFeed the other day. I think a lot of you guys probably see that all over your Facebook news feed. And I found a lot of funny things kids had to say on the subject. So here we have a kid that wants to get a girlfriend, kiss her, and then rule the world. And then we got this ambitious kid here who wants to become a dog after he grows up. And the next one, my personal favorite, is a kid that wants to, at 3 years old, become a dad, at 4, become a toy designer, 5, become a video game maker, and now that he's 5 and a half, he wants to be a ninja chef. And if you look carefully, it says he wants to be a chef between Monday to Thursday, and then Friday's a ninja, and Saturday and Sunday he takes a break. Now, I'm not so different from that ninja chef. When I was in high school, I could totally see why my friends thought I was crazy. I was programming, I was on the robotics team, I was obsessed with video games, I went to E3, and I was a big writer on this website called Nintendo Insider. At the same time, doing all that, the programming and the video games, I was also volunteering at Cleveland Clinic during the summers, and I also did DNA research at Cleveland State. And I also studied Latin, and I kind of had this idea that I could become a doctor and a video game designer. I have no idea what I was thinking at the time. I'm pretty sure, just like that ninja chef, you think you're so in love with this idea and you think you can go with it, but looking back on it now, I think I was pretty crazy. Moving on to college, I kind of had this identity crisis. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I picked up design. I started learning Illustrator, and while I was pre-med. And like many of you, you probably were changing your majors at least 4 or 5 times. For me, I was bio pre-med to graphic design to photography to business, and I could keep going on. I ended up finishing with economics from Ohio State. These flyers you see here was probably done about 2005, 2006. I was designing club flyers all over all the nightclubs and doing a lot of different print materials, so I kind of picked up the art side right around college. And it was this flyer, or this actually, the agenda book of Ohio State was done in 2007. They actually chose my design, and they ended up printing 80,000 copies on campus. And it was one of those moments where I thought to myself, like, maybe I can switch from biology pre-med to graphic design. I know my parents probably would have hated it, but it was that moment I thought about it, but it wasn't enough for me to just switch over. I always felt that I kept getting bored with all the work that I do, and I wanted to find the next best thing. And I always knew there was some sort of key element missing. I was learning all these great new skills between branding and marketing and design and science, but none of them were my end game, my one-way career path. So I'm going to take a big jump from college and high school and all the things you saw, where I'm learning all these different things, and move right into the work that I do today. It's been about 6, 7 years now since I've graduated college, and my current baby, my project right now, is called Rogue Eyewear. It's an eyewear brand I launched right here in Cleveland, and I use a lot of different experimental materials like leather, wood, rubber. And the cool thing is that you don't find a lot of brands that are independent, doing their own thing. A lot of the industry right now is controlled by pretty much 1 or 2 big companies. They own all the major brands. And I'm kind of trying to reignite the industry by taking new approaches to photography, to product development, and materials. Even the price point is a very competitive price point. And it's from Cleveland. You never really hear of a fashion brand coming from Cleveland. And that's kind of why I called it Rogue, because I was kind of angry in a sense, because I thought that there should be a reason why we can do something here. And I always felt that, with the bigger companies out there, they're charging too much for plastic. I mean, you don't have to pay $300 for a piece of plastic. That's kind of the first thing I thought of. And I always felt that fashion houses cater towards women, and I always felt that there was a way to, go rogue for the industry and start all over again. And so far, I've been getting a ton of celebrity support. We've actually got into profit within the 8 months of business, which is pretty exciting. Already moving ahead in 2015 with a lot of major celebrity campaigns and endorsements. Product development, we've been hiring left and right, so it's been pretty exciting. I wanted to showcase a video to you guys that I did last month called Jet Set Series, and it's an entire line that I use, and I resourced the materials from a private jet. If you look carefully, you'll probably find me, and I'm going to make a quick cameo for about 2 seconds. the cool thing about that video is every model, every photographer, all the videographers, the makeup, and the location was all shot here in Cleveland, believe it or not. And you would be surprised, you would think that comes from, New York, LA, Paris, but it was done right here at home, like about 20 minutes from here, so not too far. So moving forward, I have a couple other ventures. I'm not going to be able to share all of them with you today, but I'm just going to try to give you guys some of the fun ones, I'd say. And the next one, and it's sort of a transition you can see from Eyewear to another product. It's called Innovation Chemical Technologies. I'd have to actually thank my parents, my father, who was a scientist, who kind of got this going, but I helped him along the way while I was in high school and turned his raw ideas into an actual product. And what you see here is one of those products. On the left, you can see a product with a hydrophobic coating, which kind of has the glass, you can see like the water beating off top left. On the right, you can see a sample that doesn't show that. And we're currently the worldwide market leader in the nano coatings in the ophthalmic market. And it's kind of surprising. You'd never think that this actually, something comes out of Cleveland like this. If you look at, if you go to lens crafters, you go to Costco, and they ask you, are you looking for AR or anti-reflective on your glass? Chances are that's our formula. And right now, with the direction of our company, we're moving from ophthalmic to other industries. A few people we're in talks with are Apple, iPhone. You'll be seeing that possibly on the new iPhone 6, Boeing, and as well as lens crafters and Costco. This is one of the robots that we have in our lab, and our lab is also in Cleveland. We also have one in Orlando. And you can see like the robotic arm, and what it does is it picks up the small little pills that carries our formula in there. Next up, we have a company called iLTHY that I invested into in 2011. It stands for I Love the Hype, and this picture you see, if you guys were here about 2 years ago, we had done it, the vendor village was actually at this location. This was our first store. The founder's name is Glenn Infante, and him and I become not only business partners, but best friends. The really cool story that not a lot of people know is that agenda book that you guys saw that I designed at Ohio State. At the time, I was probably around 20 years old, and Glenn didn't know me yet, but I used to email him like a fanboy, talking about how much I love his artwork, and he had no idea who I was, and I had sent him that agenda book, and I told him, I was inspired by your art, and I designed it, based off of the way you do your vibrant colors. And who would have thought that 7 years later we would have become business partners? So it's kind of a fun story. A lot of the product you see here, I don't necessarily do all the artwork, but I do some of the boring business stuff, the accounting, the finances, but I do also work on the complex product development. Some of the products you see, the cartoon backpack on the bottom right, the all-over prints, the hoodies, a lot of that stuff is the work that I do. It's cool because it's not necessarily just creating art, but you're working almost like a blueprint. So there's a little bit of mathematical work that needs to be involved to create those tech packs. So it's a completely different way of thinking. You're not just printing silk screen, but you're actually creating something literally almost in 3D. And one of the most things I'm really proud of that I've been working on for the past probably 6 months now is a toy. I never thought I'd be able to say that I was a toy maker, but I was able to take Glenn Infante's artwork from Machine Gun Kelly and recreate it into 3D and actually develop a toy which we'll be releasing hopefully this holiday. So kind of exciting. The picture here is actually the second store. This was actually across the street, right here in Gordon Square. We actually closed down about 2 months ago because it was a little bit too small. We needed to find a new infrastructure for the company. And we are going to be opening up in Lakewood, I think in about 2 weeks, which is really exciting. It's about 5 times the size of our old store, huge gallery, beautiful space. So keep an eye out for the announcement. And I'm happy to say it's our 5th year anniversary. We just passed it in July. So, just all great things happening for iLTHY right now. Next up, I have a company called Black Rose Entertainment. So you saw some of the flyers that I made. You've seen some of the ideas of curating something. And similarly, when I was in college and even up till now, I've been putting on a lot of events all over. This picture you see here is of Machine Gun Kelly's concert. I did actually his entire tour in 2011, and I think it was about 2,700 people there for that event. So it's kind of cool. Outside of tours and concerts, I also do social events and different things in nightlife as well. While I was working on different, events and whatnot, I got the attention of a lot of, celebrities and started to develop a pretty big roster of clients through design, through branding, through marketing, and tours. So some of the familiar faces you might see: Mike Posner, Big Sean, Kid Cudi. I've been blessed to be able to work with a lot of great people and use all the talents I've picked up thus far to help their own careers too. And they weren't the only ones that noticed either. You know, during the recession, a lot of us weren't able to find a job, and in 2008, I kind of had that same problem. A lot of big-time companies weren't hiring, but they were trying to look for, you know, people or talented individuals who they can outsource to, and that actually kind of helped me out. That paved the way for me to offer my services and learn and expose myself into so many different industries and sink my teeth into, you know, developing marketing campaigns for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And now with Black Rose, I'm proud to announce that we are actually developing a potential liquor brand out of it now. So we're going from events and services into an actual product. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. You know, still, you know, testing this out, but I hope to see the next few years this can actually launch into a full product. So with all my different wacky ideas, you can tell I'm not the 9-to-5 type of guy. I actually created a company called Arora, which actually serves as my parent company for everything that I work on. There's a lot of other companies I'd love to share with you, but I don't have that much time to you know, take over the stage. But overall, with this company called Arora, I you know, seek new investments, manage the assets, and oversee the ones that I've built. Generally, you know, my day-to-day would consist of jumping in and out of whatever project we're working on, a lot of planning, a lot of research, and a lot of team-oriented projects. Lastly, my current project for the last 3 months now has been developing products possibly for the government. So it's a completely different aspect now. I'm working with government grants, doing a lot of research on new applications and possibly new inventions. I really wanted to show you guys some of the cool stuff I'm working on, but it's still too early and a little top secret, you could say. But one of the things I can tell you is that I'm working on reinventing the construction helmet. It's going to take a lot of time, probably 2-3 years, but hopefully I'll come back in a WMC 8 or something to show you my progress. So going back to that subject of what do you want to be when you grow up, we all hate that phrase, we're tired of it, and a lot of us, you know, we want to do more than one thing. So it got me thinking about you guys, like what is it that compels you in a sense, or what is it that drives you in a way? So how many of you guys here have read Malcolm Gladwell's The Outliers? Anyone here? Cool, it's a few people. So if you haven't read it, one of the subjects that he talks about right early on in the book is the 10,000 hour rule. And Malcolm Gladwell states that if you can master something, if you want to master something, you have to achieve at least 10,000 hours. And he goes on to talk about Bill Gates programming at an early age, and by the time he was in his 20s, he was already a master, you know, and this is something, you know, before you even get to college, he already knows it. Similarly, he talks about the Beatles and how they were practicing in Hamburg almost every day for years on end, and doing performances even before they got signed. And the cool thing about this concept isn't the fact that 10,000 hours is difficult to. It's actually surprisingly pretty easy. And this is one of those, you know, simple infographics you can find on Google. And I saw this when I was doing some research, and I saw that there's 2,000 some hours that you work every day. You know, 8 hours, you know, multiplied out, comes out to about 2,000 hours. And within a whole year, there's about 9,000. So one could say you could easily pick up a couple new skill sets over time. It wouldn't be too difficult. Now, going back to the idea of changing your major, it's not that different for those who endure, say, a midlife crisis. It says here, the average American changes their careers at least 7 times in a lifetime. I don't know about you guys, but you know, it's pretty common to at some point just want to just flip, you know, switch your career. Even the thought of the idea of wanting you guys to want to change your career happens for most of us. And I truly believe that many of us run into our midlife crisis because we never really set out what we never really accomplished what we were set out to do. We get stuck in that everyday routine and, you know, don't pursue the things we enjoy. Now, I know some of you may have gotten really lucky and found the career that you love, but statistically right now, there's a huge percentage of unsatisfied people working in jobs that you don't truly enjoy. So I'm trying to show you guys that, you know, there is something here, you know. There's a reason why people change their major, they go through midlife crisis, because we're just not happy. You know, there's got to be a way to kind of fulfill that. So it got me thinking, who has fulfilled that? Who are some people that we know of, you know, in the course of time or history or present day that have done that? And some names come to mind: Leonardo da Vinci, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and they've led a very fulfilling work life, you could say. And it's clear that as humans, we have the capacity to become, you know, great inventors and great thinkers. And what's interesting with the names that I just mentioned, many of them don't have just one thing that defines their life's work. You know, why is it that Steve Jobs was able to create so many novel products in a variety of industries? Why is it that Leonardo da Vinci was able to be a painter, a sculptor, a scientist, and so many other, different things. So let's try to figure out some solutions. How is it that we can be like these guys? How can we find multiple things that we can fall in love with throughout our, course of life? So I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of a secret of mine, at least how I figure out if I'm onto something and it makes sense. And I actually have never told this to anyone, so it's kind of cool to share, like, one of my little secrets that I do for my own projects. But what I do is I have a book and I write every possible idea I can think of, and I don't stop writing. I keep writing till I get tired. Now, doing this allows me to almost create like a very rough draft business plan or whatever the idea might be. But the thing is, most people will tell you to, do a lot of research and tell your friends, tell your mentors, and just keep talking about it and get it out there. But I actually say to do the exact opposite. You write it in this book and you don't look at it again. You give it about 2 weeks. Doing so allows you to, in a sense, just kind of step away from it and come back to it later and see, does this even make sense? I've written some of the craziest business ideas that would never make any sense, but when I'm writing it and I'm in love with it, I'm already attached to the idea, and that having that bias actually makes things difficult, especially when it comes to business. So creating that filtration system actually helps in a way, because you kind of take off those rose-tinted glasses after 2 weeks to say, hey, you know what, this is a terrible idea. What was I thinking? And I literally come up with these ideas every day. My friends and family have to deal with all my wacky ideas that I come up with. So this filtration system that I've come up with actually helps me. So I hope that, if you guys are going to take something away, you can actually maybe use this idea too if you want to pursue a new project or just have a new concept you want to see if it would work. Now, the next thing is in the idea of trying to find your life's work or see if it makes sense. If you're wondering how in the world does this guy go from science to fashion, it's not so difficult. In the case of the Eyewear project, I went from Eyewear, but I had some of an Eyewear background before I started. It's all about building blocks. And in your case, it might be going from Photoshop to Illustrator to Dreamweaver, even though they're not so weird to go around, but if you look at it, Photoshop is design and Dreamweaver is the web. So those are two completely different sides of it, but it's not so different. And in my case, the product might change over time, but the passion always stays the same. I might be throwing a party or I might be selling sunglasses. I'm still selling some sort of product. So I always look at it in that sense where I'm just providing something. And in my case, as I continue, I might not know what I'm going to pursue next, but I always know that whatever I'm working on kind of fits within some sort of portfolio or some sort of bubble. And it leads me down towards my next project. My next investment could be something stemmed from my previous ventures. And that transition, just like the Photoshop to Dreamweaver analogy, isn't so much different from, say, a swimmer trying to be a cyclist or a chemist who wants to become a chef. In the end, they're using what they already know and they're using those building blocks to get to the next step. So I asked you guys earlier if you guys wanted to hear about science, but how many of you want to hear about math? No hands, that's what I thought. Oh, I see one hand over there. It's not so bad. This formula I actually came up with last night with my family. I was trying to figure out how to, how do you quantify the idea of finding that motivator, that drive, and I sort of wrote this very rough draft. I don't even know if it's totally right. Someone could probably argue this easily, but I created a formula to quantify this, and you're probably confused with all these different variables you see, but it's not so bad once I explain each one. So you have T as in time, E is your environment, SA is your self-awareness, your D is your drive, which consists of your interest level times your passion, minus R, which is risk. Some of you might be wondering, why is IL times P, like why isn't it just one unit? I look at it as two different things. Interest level is your catalyst or your spark, but it's your passion that keeps your drive going. You need each one of those to continue. If you lose one of them, you won't be able to continue what you're looking for. And that being said, with interest level, it's one of those things that you need every once in a while. If you have a strong interest level early on, your passion should be equal to that level or greater. So it's very important to make sure that when you're deep into something, you really want to go far with it. So these are all the variables I can come up with. And if you ask yourself something that you want to pursue, if it's working out or if it's learning to ride a horse, you have to ask yourself, what are the things holding me back? What are the risks? Do I have the time? Is my environment set up for it? Am I self-aware about myself to pursue this project? So I'm going to go through a couple of these different variables now to see if I can help you guys find something that you want to do too. So the next image here, I traveled to India, and I'm a big traveler. I've been blessed to be able to go all over the world, and India was one of those things I went to as a kid, and I would, to be honest, I kind of hated it because it was always a family, and it wasn't exactly fun. It was exactly what you kind of picture would be on TV or Slumdog Millionaire, but I always had this narrow-mindedness towards India. I was always kind of bored because I always went every couple of years, and it was never exciting for me. But I had the opportunity about in 2008, 2009, to travel by myself and just explore and adventure. And I came across this beautiful island called Elephanta Island. It's a remote island. You have to take a boat down through the Indian Ocean, about an hour south of Bombay, and they've got the most fascinating giant statues, and no one knows about it, and that's what makes it so cool. And for me, I got to see a side of India that I never even really knew about. I would see stuff in pictures, but it never was the same once you get there, and you just see how beautiful these statues are. And it really got me thinking about trying to let go of that narrow-mindedness that could be in business or life or even in relationships. And by seeing that, I was able to come back and take that part of me, and use that in business and say, you know what, like, I know science, I know entertainment, but I don't know fashion, but you know what, maybe I can learn it, maybe I can figure this out. I don't have to be necessarily so afraid of it. So that was one really important element that I picked up along the way. The next one was your environment, and that's an easy one. If you go to school, that's an easy way to learn what you need to, but there are other ways to surround yourself in the right environment. And in this case, when I worked with iLTHY, I picked up the product development. I chose to work on iLTHY before I got to Rogue because I knew I needed to be in a conducive environment for that. And being around the right people, being around designers, being around creatives really allowed me to unleash that side of me too. So I always encourage everybody, if you're having trouble and you want to learn something, you don't have to go in on it alone. It's the case of even if you wanted to go work out. It's always easier to have a buddy, or if you're trying to study for a big test, it's always easier when you have a partner next to you. So having good people and being in the right room or the right community, all of you here, just being here at WMC already shows a sign that you're making a commitment to wanting to further yourself in the industry that you're in. So environment is extremely important. And the last variable in that equation was to remove risk. If you are having trouble, taking that leap of faith, you have to figure out what's the identifier that's doing that. And in my case, it's usually time. That's probably the biggest one. But I've found that if I partner with the right people, I can eliminate the time and then work with other creatives or other individuals that share that same passion. So you have to think about how is it that I can remove risk. Now, some of you might be wondering, how does this guy handle so many different projects? When does he sleep? When does he even do anything? And in my case, it's project by project. So there's times where I step away, there's times where I have to jump back in. But I've learned that when I'm failing in one side of my industries, I jump into another one. And I see it, while it's plateauing, I can focus on something else, and then I carry that momentum. Those wins I can carry over to a project that's not doing so well. And similarly, we've seen this in industries today. Elon Musk is a great example. He did so well in SpaceX, getting the government contracts, trying to be the first person to go to Mars. He used that success, that drive, that passion to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go back to Tesla and fix up this electric car problem, and which he did. Similarly, that's exactly what I do. If I see myself plateauing somewhere, I jump somewhere else, make it successful, and I carry that throughout everything. And that's not even just through work. It's actually, just through life. You want to maintain positivity, and some of you might feel those pressures in work, and it's a great way to, find something that you love to do. Even a hobby can actually help you bring that back in through, and help your family life, help your relationships, help your work, help your friends. So as I, conclude what these different solutions, I wanted to pull out a picture of something that had a lot of meaning to me, and this is actually a picture of me from Little Italy, just 20 minutes east of Cleveland. And I always look at it and I said, who would have ever thought this little guy here would become a sunglass designer? And no, these are not for sale, so. So, I want you guys to stop saying that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? You really have to just kind of remove that question, and especially, as children, we shouldn't even be telling our kids that same question. Our career doesn't have to define who we are or what we do. And, like I said, with our children, we shouldn't encourage them to, follow that formula or that path that our teachers tell us, or what they ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because whoever says we have to just do one thing, can we have more than one love, And what we should be saying is, what all can you be as you grow up? When you start thinking about life as a collection of stories, adventures, and projects and dreams, it's no longer about achieving just a job title. It allows you to expand your expectations of yourself and your own experiences. So I ask all of you, what all can we do while we are still growing up? Thank you.
All right, so we have time for just maybe a couple of questions. The first one I have is, I kind of want to talk about like the sort of investment and capital side of fundraising. Maybe if you could share some tips with people on like either how you started your first business and how you kind of got the momentum started to keep investing in other things, because I think there's probably a lot of people here who the ideas are easy for them, but how do you kind of execute them? How do you grow them? So yeah, if you have any kind of like financial advice, that might be really helpful.
So is this specific to fundraising or just raising capital for a business?
All of that.
Anything?
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is, if you have a business or a fundraising idea or just any sort of project that you are compassionate for, it's not about the money, it's about conveying your idea. If you can get people to believe in your idea, the money will come. And that's the most important thing. In the case of Glenn, for example, with his art behind me, I was convinced at his story. He was just an amazing guy. As a designer, he worked at Kmart to start with, and then he went to work at Hot Cards, and he had a daughter, and I was convinced to help him. I even told him when we first met that I would help him, and I don't expect a percentage of his company. I was compelled to help him. And in the case of, being an angel investor, I think that if any of you are looking for raising capital, you want to convince them on a philosophical level, not necessarily a business plan. If you can get them to invest with their heart than their brain, you will get a lot more out of them. You'll get more resources, you will get more knowledge, you'll even get them to work in the trenches with them, just like I did.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thanks so much, Kumar.
Yep.